Alright, welcome everyone. We'll start off with a discussion on Chartered Financial Analyst, CFA, and so what are the things we are going to cover. I'll just give you a brief overview of CFA, and we'll be discussing the eligibility, the registration, the deadlines, the cost, how to plan the timeline as in when you can give the exams. The syllabus we'll be going through in detail. That is a very important part, because before you decide as to what you want to go ahead with, you need to understand the syllabus very thoroughly. It's very, very important, because whether to, whether you like the content, not like the content, whether you want to get in the field or not, whether it is complementing the work profile that you have currently. So all those questions, in order to answer all of those questions, the most important thing to understand is the syllabus in detail. So please be very attentive for the syllabus part. Then the exam pattern, how you're supposed to be cracking it, where do you study from, passing criteria, passing rates, books, calculator, and scope, job prospects, salaries, combinations. When a lot of people question about doing CFA with a CA or with a CS or with an FRM, or how does it complement an MBA, or with the job how to manage, if I'm from an engineering background, if I'm from maths honors or economics honors. So in all those aspects, how does CFA work for you? So those parts, and then we'll discuss about exactly how we go ahead with the classes. This is not like a demo lecture or something. It is the first class. You need to watch this, because you need to understand the entire thing before you go ahead with CFA, because you need to know where are you studying from, how are you, supposed to be going about it. So you need to have a very thorough idea. In level 1 may not be, but in level 2 and level 3 of CFA, you will understand how the different subjects are going to get connected. So that is why having a very good overview of the entire syllabus becomes important. Right? So how many hours you're going to need to prepare and all those things. So we'll discuss all of that. So when you're looking at CFA, it's one of the most coveted designations in finance. The first thing people ask is, what is the difference between CA, CFA and FRM? Just to give you an idea of what this course is all about. When you're looking at CA, you will be having multiple subjects. You have accountancy, you have taxation, you have cost, you have law, you have audit, you have finance, you have IT. So there is a mix of all the subjects. Right? So when you're looking at chartered accountancy, it's based on the Indian business, Indian law. Again, every course is unique, and every course has its own advantages, disadvantages, specializations. Like say for example, if I want to get in the field of taxation, I would be looking at chartered accountancy and not CFA. If I want to get into auditing, it would be again more of CA. There could be a little bit of overlap. I'll talk about forensic auditing, wherein CFA could be very, very useful. So there are pros and cons, not pros and cons rather, but there is each degree has its, or each certification will have its own syllabus, own curriculum, and its own application. So the application is going to be different, and that's what you need to understand. When we're looking at CFA, CA has one subject on finance. CFA is an entire curriculum, entire syllabus on just finance. So CFA is a course on finance. So the subjects in CFA would be the chapters that you will probably be studying in a CA, which is the Indian equivalent of CPA. So that is a finance subject, and over here it is a degree in finance. Now even when you're looking at CFA, for example, there is a subject called alternate investment. Now a degree on alternate investment will be CAIA, CAIA, right? So there are different degrees, different specializations. Now FRM, when we are talking about, that is a degree on finance, but with a specialization in the risk management area. So when you're talking about FRM, you're talking about financial risk management, and that is a finance degree, but then there is a specialization in risk management. So CFA becomes a degree on finance in general, right? For the details on other subjects, we'll discuss it in the other sessions. So that is, your CFA is going to be a degree in finance. The second thing is that CFA is provided by the CFA Institute, that is in USA. CFAinstitute.org is the website that you can visit. So when you're looking at the Indian CFA, it's no more applicable as such. It is the CFAinstitute.org, the US CFA Institute, that is recognized globally. So that is what we will be looking at, we will be pursuing. When you're looking at the CFA designation, again, you don't need to go to the US and give the exams. The exams take place all over the world. So you can give one exam in India, another one in another country, and the third level in another country. And you will be able to use the CFA designation against your name, no matter in which country you're working. So it is globally recognized. The exams take place all over the world and in every country, and the same paper comes up for all the students at the same time. So it is the same exam that everybody is appearing for. So it becomes a global designation with a global recognition in finance. Now when you're looking at the passing, the timeline part of it, when you're looking at the timeline of CFA, you can give the exam in December for only level 1. In June, you can give any of the levels. So the earliest you can complete the exam is you can give CFA Level 1, then just in 6 months you can give CFA Level 2, and then in a year's time, in next year June, you can give CFA Level 3. So basically within 1.5 years, you will be able to complete the entire course, provided you're clearing all the exams in the first attempt, right? Otherwise, if you start in the month of June, then you're going to be taking 2 years, because you give the first exam in June, then a year later in another June, and then another year later in another June. So basically, it will be approximately 2.5 years, because you'll start preparing 6 months before, right? Ideally, you'll be needing approximately 6 months. That's an approximation. People start off 8 months or 9 months before the exam as well, or a year earlier also. More than a year, definitely not needed. So I think, because you'll just be dragging the syllabus. So a year before is decent. 8 to 9 months is fine. 6 months is on an average based on my experience. And there are people who also try to crack it and do crack it in 3-4 months as well. But then again, if you've taken a call, if you've taken a decision, the earlier you start, the better it is. Because obviously you'll have more time to prepare, better understanding, more practice, more time for practice, and you'll be able to crack it with a better probability. The exams generally take place on the first Saturday of each of those months. So if you're looking at the December exam is going to be on the first Saturday. I will discuss the exam pattern a little later, but it's going to take about 1.5 to 2 years, or 2 to 2.5 years approximately, to complete the entire course. With respect to eligibility, that comes another question. So your eligibility criteria, the institute has 3 eligibility criteria when you're looking at the CFA course. 1, you need to be either a graduate. 2, you need to be in the final year pursuing graduation. And 3, you can have a combined work experience or education of 4 years. That is, you either need to be in the final year of graduation, or you need to be a graduate, or you need to have a combined work experience plus education plus work experience of about 4 years. So if any of these criteria, if you are satisfying any of these criteria, you can start off with the CFA curriculum. You can start off with the CFA exams. So that is your basic eligibility criteria. A very important reminder, if you're registering for the CFA exam without a passport, you will not be able to register. You have to have a passport, not just on the exam day, but even when you're registering for CFA on the website of the institute, you will need to put your passport number over there. So for any of you guys who do not have a passport right now, please make sure you're applying for it very soon, and you're getting the passport before the deadline. So you need to get the passport as soon as possible before the registration, in case you do not have it. Another thing that you need to register when you're registering for the exam, in that case you would need a credit card. Debit card, I've just heard 1 or 2 debit cards that have worked, but generally 99% debit cards are not going to be working for forex transactions. You will have to use a credit card to make the payment. You will have to use a wire transfer is there, but wire transfer becomes a little more expensive. So there is one option that you can go for wire transfer, but most of the students that I've seen, they go for a credit card. So you will need a credit card to make the payment for the institute. The payment deadlines, now the payment deadlines are going to be varying. When you're looking at the payment deadlines, say for example for the December month, for the December exam, your payment deadline is going to be somewhere in mid-March. For the exact dates, you can go to the cfainstitute.org website and you can check the deadline and the fees. So when you're looking at the December deadline, the first deadline is March. That is actually not the first deadline, that's the early bird deadline. At this point of time, the fees is going to be somewhere, when you convert it, it's going to be around 70,000 rupees. Approximately when you convert it to INR, it comes down to somewhere close to 70,000 rupees. When you're, and that's about $930 or $980 or so? No, it's going to be more than 650. Level 1. $1,100. 650 would be only for the exam you're talking about. Plus 400, of course. So 1150 or something close to 1100. So it's going to somewhat come down to 70,000 rupees. The second deadline comes in August. These deadlines are generally either on the 10th or the 20th. March deadline would be somewhere on the 16th or something. 20th, 14th, and August again, it's going to be somewhere on the 10th and 14th. So you can check the website. The August deadline is going to cost you around $1380 or so dollars. So that becomes a little expensive, and the last deadline is going to be even more expensive, and the third deadline, that is the late deadline, is September. So this is the early bird deadline where the fees is a little low. August deadline is a deadline that you'll be looking at in general, and then you have your September deadline. When you're looking at the June exams, for the June exam, if you see, your deadline is either going to be, you're going to be registering in the early bird deadline, that will be September for the June exams. The second deadline comes in February, and the late deadline comes in March. So you can check the fees, it's somewhere around $1,100. This one is going to be somewhere around $1,300 plus, and this is going to be even more steeper. You'll just have to check the fees because they keep on revising it. So you can just see those. So you need to ideally register here, and if you're early, then register here and save some money over there. So these are your registration deadlines, right? Next one. So the cost part I've discussed. Now, one more thing to note over here is that unlike Indian exams, generally in the Indian exams, we do not need to pay a chunk of money in order to reappear for the exams. But in CFA, in case you're not, if you're not able to clear any exam, you need to pay the exam fees again. So the exam fees is a sizable chunk, somewhere approximately $650 or so. So if you're appearing, say for example, I did not clear level 1 in the first attempt, or for some reason I was not able to attempt my exam, I was not able to give the exam. When I have to re-register my exam, I'll have to pay $650. The fees you can check, you don't have to pay the registration fees again, you just have to pay the exam fees again. So it becomes important that you're studying and taking the exam very seriously, because a lot of money is at stake as well. So for level 2 and level 3, you just have to pay the exam fees and not the registration fees. So it will be approximately a $650 or so that you will be paying, and then you have those curriculum fees and all those things get added. So approximately your exam fees is what you need to pay when you're appearing for level 2 and level 3. Registration fees does not need to be paid. Perfect. Everybody's understanding that part? Now, so now in the next section, I'll just divide my introduction to this curriculum in two parts. In the next part, we'll discuss the syllabus in detail.